right, welcome back. Another episode on a Friday. JR, super excited to be here. We're not going to talk about what just happened, but we have a huge guest that's coming on the show today. Another player in the event tech industry and in the meetings technology space. Super excited to get into this with this guest. But JR, what else do we have coming up on the show, man?
We're going to meet Chris. So we got Chris and Kris today, which I'm excited about. But the other Chris and I just met 10 minutes ago. I got a billion questions. Excited to get into it with him. So without further ado, here comes the rain.
All right, without further ado, the guest of the hour, Chris Donaldson, man, super excited to have you on the podcast today. Appreciate you taking the time to join us and speak with JR and I about all things event tech. Welcome. How you feeling?
Hey, I appreciate the time, guys. I think how I'm feeling, it's Friday and everything's in the rearview mirror this week, but happy to share some of those things with you and talk specifically around event tech.
Yeah, it's almost like deja vu. It's almost like we've done this. I heard Chris Donaldson. I want to call you CD. Can I call you CD? I mean, that seems fun.
I'm already writing that down. I think moving forward, that will just be what I go with. I'll let my wife and kids know.
All right, you're in event tech, web, mobile, etc. I've been in events my whole life on the production side. We don't usually touch this technology side as far as apps and web design goes. But I think of what event tech, and I think deprecated and old and basic forms. How are you bringing new to the game?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're not wrong. I think event tech in general has taken a slower approach to catch up to the rest of the world. I think when you've looked at how social media has, impacted the way we consume content on a daily basis, I would have imagined event tech would have probably gotten a bit closer to what we align to now. It hasn't. I think there's some innovation that's currently happening that I think gives me optimism about that changing fairly soon, and really leaning into the audience a bit more on their own level instead of, I think, the continued rinse and repeat of the event types and the event processes that companies have been doing for the last 20 or 30 years. So as it relates to technology, we've been able to take what we know and what we've learned about the existing platforms. And I think a lot of new and very innovative companies have come out recently to be able to solve some of those problems. So we're leaning into a lot of new tech and a lot of new platforms. And then what I do in particular with those particular platforms is kind of take them at their core, turn them on their head, and see how much I can customize and build towards ultimately what the client is looking for, which is, a unique custom experience that continues to bring their audience back. And so we've been able to do that a lot more recently with, conditional content based on, IP addresses, AI chatbots. I think technology is really providing us the opportunity to, I think, catch back up to what social media has been doing for the last couple of years.
Most definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head. Customization right now is key, especially in the events industry. Like, being able to customize any tool is invaluable for the client. And that's where the market's shifting. And Chris, I know you do a lot of this stuff on a day-to-day basis, but for the listeners, can you tell us how you even got into this industry? Because that's the first thing that people always ask me. What made you want to go into events? So I'm curious to hear your story on that.
Did you do it on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't. I think I fell head first into it. But all that to be said, I was on a path towards economics. I think life throws you some curveballs. Through those curveballs and inevitably a path of sobriety and recovery, I ended up in Berkeley, just kind of south of San Francisco, looking for a new opportunity to take on professionally, and ended up in hotel management for a few years. That kind of opened up my eyes to additional opportunities as it pertained to events, just because the hotel was consistently pulling in unique and different event systems that ultimately pointed me to an agency that I signed on with for about 6 or 7 years. And so with that agency, I dabbled in all sorts of event management, from logistics and registration to what I do now, which is event tech, and ultimately the customization of technology on a level that I think clients are still yearning to improve on. But all that being said, we've opened the door to be able to do some pretty awesome stuff with these platforms that we now work with, the platforms that are coming up and kind of taking a bigger role in the event space. But all that to be said, event management, event tech, I don't know if I had that in my vocabulary until these last 13 years, but I love what I do. It feeds a creative juice that not many other things have in my life, and so I lean into it every day. I work with some amazing people, and continue to just learn and digest and take on new challenges that I think ultimately are going to lend itself to a transition to event tech, the event space, how we look at how we want to manage events and the net return that these companies are inevitably looking for, but still not getting to a point where I think there's going to be a big shift to the way events run in the near future. And I'm hopeful for that, because I think, like I said before about social media, we consume content differently. I mean, with the, with COVID the last couple of years and the way the event space had to transition for that, and then inevitably creating an audience that remained, which is virtual. I think we're going to continue to lean into that type of audience and content consumption, which ultimately is the goal, right? When you're hosting an event, you're trying to bring in new customers, new eyes on what you're doing, what you're innovating on as a company. I think what we do in the space right now, who I partner with specifically, is able to do that really, really well.
Yeah, I think we'll see tech being layered in a lot better, a lot more efficiently in the future, especially as Gen Z starts to make their impact. These tech native generations, not to date myself, but I entered the professional world with Palm Pilots and Blackberries. These kids came out with iPhones in their hands. So I think they're looking for a little different experience than I am. And as they get older in their careers, we'll have to adapt to them. And I think we're actually getting ahead of that to where they hit mid-career and have influence. I think you have an opportunity here to really gear up now. So when they're in their 30s and 40s, we have the tools that they need and want to use. Aside from that, we talk a lot about, our theme of sideways rain. Some of it happens to you, but some of it you do to yourself, right? So at some point, Chris, you said, I'm not going to work for anybody anymore. I'm going to go work for myself. I'm going to be my own boss, but that also means your own HR department, accountant, and even your own healthcare provider. What was that like? Good and bad, and how did you navigate it those early days?
Yeah, I think, you start to see the writing on the wall when you're kind of repeating the same habits and kind of, we'll call it work mentality. When I was working for a company and working full time, I think you want to continue to prove yourself, validate that the work you're doing is meaningful, has impact across the company. But it's very hard ultimately to see that clearly. And at some point, you're at kind of the control of, or under the control of, someone that ultimately has their best interest in mind and doesn't necessarily consider you anything but a cog in their wheel. And ultimately, because of that, I didn't feel the impact that I wanted to have was truly hitting where it needed to hit for the team I was working for myself, for my family. And I think ultimately the stress that creates, the lack of control I think I had in my own path, continue to crack open this door, this idea that what else is out there that allows me to directly impact something on a level that I can see, that I can get feedback on, And then what are the things that I'm afraid of doing if I step that direction? And I think fear is this thing that motivates you, if used the right way, to do something that you've always longed for, but you're just too concerned or scared about to actually commit to. And if you commit to it long enough and you see it through, good and the bad, at the end of that road is something that you can really take back and appreciate for what it gave you. And so I wasn't getting anywhere close to that working for these companies, even though they were great companies to work for. I was getting paid pretty well. I had security in terms of insurance and health coverage for my family, roof over my head, money coming in consistently. But there was just something about that just didn't fit the mold that I thought I wanted to live within. And you see all these other people, I mean, especially the new generations that you spoke about earlier, coming up and realizing that there's a different path to being successful and to living life and doing what you love. And ultimately, I wanted to lean into that more. And I felt like at the age I was at, I had the opportunity to do it then. Any later, I may have, just committed to riding that full-time wave out. But all that to be said, I made the leap to start my own company right when kind of COVID first took off. There was a unique opportunity where I was working with the partner that I currently work for and work with now, where he was directly connected to the company I was working for. When I left, he immediately reached out. We had a very transparent conversation about where his company was growing and how I could be a part of that. And he knew that I wanted to start my own thing. So we wanted to talk about how that could work in favor of both parties. He's already, 5-6 years farther along, established with a client base and a procurement team and an accountant. And I could quickly spin up my company and leverage his in order to provide support and strategize and really build up what we both knew was a big gap in the industry, which was event tech management and customization. And so I think it was maybe 5 minutes after I got off the call, I called him right back and I said, "I'll see you Monday." And things just literally took off from there. The company's been doing fantastic. There's never enough time. And I can't be more grateful for that opportunity.
That's amazing. Well, first and foremost, shout out to you for taking the leap, because a lot of people in your position, it's not easy to make that leap, let alone do it blindly, let alone start a business fresh out of COVID. Like, it seems like the odds were stacked against you, but you still made that leap. You had confidence. Were there any struggles that you went through when you made that decision? And at any point, did you ever question if you made the right decision of leaving your full-time job and going full self-entrepreneur route?
Oh, sure. I mean, at that first year, self-doubt literally lived next to me and kind of was poking me, on the shoulder every 5 minutes saying, "Hey, is this the right decision? Hey, you have a family now and, you have commitments and bills to pay. Like, is this going to work out the way you think it's going to work out?" That only motivated me to ensure that I was consistently driving towards something that maintained this idea of what I thought value was to the customers I was supporting and the partner that I was partnering with. And it drove me to become better at what I did, how I communicated, who I leaned into to help continue to drive that ship forward. I think there's a lot to be said about, like, you can trust yourself and you can trust your abilities and you can continue to push those. But at some point, you have to lean into the people around you. Trust that as much as you are capable of doing something, the world is full of people more capable than you to take the reins and start, driving the same idea, the same focus, the same ultimate goal that I think, I had, BW Events had, and where we're at now. And so I think what transition from a lot of self-doubt and a lot of concern in that first year was really my ability to lean into the people around me and start to build a team where I had rock stars left and right, where I could immediately lean into something if I felt something was dropping and that I couldn't take control of, or that something was presented to me that needed to be turned around quickly and I didn't have the bandwidth to do so. Hiring a team and being able to foster good relationships with those individuals and being able to lean and trust into them, or trust them implicitly with something that I don't know if I was able to do, in what I'll call the rat race, working full time. I think I literally was in this silo of I am my own support system. I am directly impacted by my work and my work only. If I'm not pushing myself and really taking on everything that's thrown at me, I'm not going to be of value to this company and they'll let me go. And so to change that mindset, to trust people more, to lean into people and grow a team of people that are truly smarter than I am, I think took that self-doubt and made what right now is what I think to be the biggest kind of growth spurt that my company and my partner's company, BW Events, have had in the last 5 years. I think it's a testament to the people around us, not necessarily the leap I made, but the people I put myself around.
Most definitely.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
I've been getting into Buddhism, right? Reading about it. I'm not a Buddhist, but when I hear you say this, I think I go back to Buddhist raw translation is life is suffering, right? But it's really life is all things, so it's suffering, joy, whatever. But if we're going to suffer and be like you said, a cog in a wheel for somebody else, why not just make the jump and suffer and do it for myself? So if there's pain either way, let's make the pain worth it, and do something I want to pursue and get into that space, the event tech gap and solving a need, versus doing it for someone else. I want to dial in on what you said, feeling like a cog in the wheel, working for someone else. I'm curious, does that influence who you are as a leader today and how you treat the folks that work for you?
Most definitely. I think the biggest thing that I've also taken, and I think the thing that I would have loved to do sooner, was really make sure that as my company grew and I brought more people on, they felt the impact that I felt when I partnered with BW Events. It's this idea that I'm now in charge of my own destiny. When I create value for the customers I work for, I am directly impacted or receiving the net results and the fruits of my labor more so than I ever have before. And so what I realized is when I start to surround myself with people that I literally have to trust my company with, I want to make sure that they feel as invested in the company as I do, that they are directly impacted as much as I am when we all succeed. And so the model that I've kind of created my company around, the way I try to support the team, the way I try to continue to engage with them on a consistent basis. I mean, I'm constantly meeting with them, and there's never really a scheduled meeting. It's more just impromptu. Hey, how you feeling? Where are we at? You're a rock star. You have all of this. The impact that you're making right now. And if you don't, I will tell you. And you're going to see the fruits of your labor in ways you've never seen before. And I think when you follow through with that commitment, you communicate to them regularly, and then you follow through with providing a bigger piece of the pie. I think it just creates this community of people that, yes, they are working for you, but the way the company is built, and I guess I should backtrack a little bit, is I contract out. So I don't have any full-time employees as it currently sits. I don't mind looking into that, but I think the best way to support the model that I've created is to hire people out and pay them for their services directly, as much or as little as they want to work. And if there's any additional benefits that come to me, those are going to be dispersed to the people that made it happen. And so I look forward to continuing to try to improve in that area, because ultimately I think that was the biggest thing I was missing, working full time. it's knowing that you're appreciated and that what you ultimately create for the customers and the clients that you work for is getting back to you, and you're supported in ways where you can look and see that your family, your personal life are all being taken care of.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, I want to jump in on something there because I haven't unlocked this yet for myself. You said, I want them to be as invested in the company as I am. And we talk about that a lot here. And it's really challenging. Do you think you can get an FTE or even a 1099 or a contract employee to be as invested in you as you are? Or does it take a level of risk for that to happen? Or does it take an actual stake in the business for that to happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, when I say the word company, I think maybe reframing that is, a community, right? Because again, I'm contracting them directly, and they're working based on a contract that I've created with a client. And so when the large majority of that money is transitioning to them, I want to communicate and make it clear to them that they're the ones driving this project. I'm supporting, and I will continue to provide any sort of additional funding and or support they would need to ensure the success of that client in that contract. But ultimately, it's a community that they're I would almost say founding member of. My company is small. It's less than 10 people. I continue to bring on additional people as I see fit, but sometimes it's few and far between because it has to be the right individual understanding the commitment they're making to themselves, and this idea that in the same struggle that I had, stepping away from something that's comfortable to something that may be a bit scary, but will more directly impact them in a positive way should they put the work and the effort in to do so. And so, yeah, I don't know if I have it right. And just hearing the words fed back to me, yeah, company's a tough one to invest in when you feel like you don't have, equity or ownership in it. There is no equity in my company. The ownership is based on the contracts that come in and the money that facilitates out. And they get pretty much the entire piece of that pie.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Very tough. Sorry to my co-host here for interrupting.
Oh no,
but that's something I try to figure out every day. There's the monetary component of this, right? And you go like, oh, a bonus to reward is great, but we found the lag time on that bonus is like 2 weeks, and then they forget, and then they're back into the salary and into the slog. So we focus on other intangibles. Like you said, the feedback loop is actually really good. Giving them access to leadership is actually really good. Giving them a voice in the organization is really good stuff where they feel like what I say here is actually making an impact. And when I say something to Chris, he listens and he implements. And I think those things actually go further than the dollar can. Obviously, we all have to pay people fair wages and what they're worth. And I think a value of 1099 or contract employees is you can say here's what you're worth for this contract and just sort of bang it out and this is it. There's your box. Congratulations. As you get into the FTE, trying to build careers that are 5-10 years long in a marketplace where people are job hopping every year, man, if you can keep people for 3 years, you're doing great. And just the way that you've spoke about your employees and the way you actually care, I'm sure translates every single day. So sorry for all that aside, Chris, interrupt me.
No, you're good. It's actually a good segue because I don't think you know this, JR, but the listeners don't know, but Chris and I met me being contracted by him. I've worked for Chris for almost a year now, and I can attest to JR, everything that you're saying, being the contracted 1099 employee and understanding the situations that I've been put in while working with Chris, the clients that I've met, the opportunities that I've had, the impact that I've felt from when I speak and when I make a suggestion or when I push back, being able to have that voice and be heard and see the impact, whether it be internal leadership, whether it be client leadership, stakeholders. I've lived and breathed that, and I attest Chris for that because he's created like he said, a community environment that made me feel, one, comfortable. Obviously, the pay is great. It makes you feel like the work that you're doing is worth what you've been doing. But two, I think the biggest thing for me has been there has not been a time where Chris has told me something that hasn't happened.
Sure.
And when it's time to pivot or when things change, there's this level of transparency that you're not going to get in a lot of other situations. And I think you can't put a dollar amount on certain things like that. And to Chris's point, it's all about who you engage with, who you hire. Not every employee, not every leader is going to be this way. But I think, Chris, you could probably speak to this a little bit more, but it's like when you meet people, you know if they're going to work or not. And you can see based on personality and just vibes that you get. And I think you have a really good eye for employees that are going to work and fit in your ecosystem. And I can attest to being one of those employees, like nothing but great things to say.
Well, I first of all, I appreciate the kind words because, not that I am not confident in the way the company's been going, but it's nice to hear sometimes when you get that feedback from people, because I think you need to know you're doing the right thing, you're doing right by people. And to your point about transparency, it can go both ways. There's plenty of conversations that Chris and I have had where I'm venting and emotional and at my wit's end with where we're at with a client, and he's just there to listen. And maybe that establishes a bit more trust in the process, right? Oh, look, there's somebody, that I'm working for that has the vulnerability to open up to me and lean into me on maybe a more personal level. And I think that has lent itself quite a bit to the community aspect that we're creating. And so appreciate the kind words, Chris. Yeah, it's nice to hear. And I always hope I'm doing right by people. And if I'm not, I'm always open to hear how we can change that.
Yeah, you use the T word there, trust. And that's another big, tough topic. And if you want to scale an organization, it involves a heavy level of trust. You have to not only hire well, but then say, I don't need to be in this because if I'm in this, I'm the backlog. How were you forced to trust, and how did you get over what I'm assuming is a little bit of being uncomfortable in that and just letting people run?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that is still a thing I'm working on, trying to improve on every day. You step into certain situations and you want to kind of control the conversation, but for the most part, side story, there was the real first hire that I made that I think had the biggest impact on my company was, 3 years ago. And this, we were, from a personal level, my wife and I were transitioning into a larger home. We were working with an agent who's become a really close friend. She introduced me to one of her friends, just happenstance. Her son was getting out of college. I think he was 22 at the time. Really didn't have any idea on what he wanted to do, but she kind of, in passing said, hey, I'd love for you to meet my son, just to have a conversation about like what you've been doing the last couple of years and maybe a different option to what everyone else is telling him he needs to do. And so he comes in, and you should see him now, right? Because he looks completely opposite to how he is today, but he had long hair, and he comes in and sits down. But the look on his face of like, I just want to do right by my family and this person in front of me, and I want to make the right decisions. You could just see like he was so ready to listen in ways where like I actually stopped for a second and I said, I don't want to impact him and say anything that guides him like unfairly or with bias. And so I learned right out of the gate talking to him that I would provide him information, but then I would also say, this is just my opinion, or this is just my path. It's giving me X, Y, Z, but there are so many other options that you can look into, and only you know the right answer to those options. And I continue to talk to him in that way, even now. He's worked for me for 3 years, but it's now grown to other people. When I sit down and talk to people, I am realizing now that I may be giving them some really important information that could impact them on a larger level. I need to make sure that I am communicating like, this is my approach. This isn't your approach. Ultimately, you're in control of that decision, whether it's personally, whether that's professionally, whether that's with a client that you're managing for me directly. I put that trust in you. You get to make this decision. I'll lay this out for you, but ultimately, like, you're the person that will choose that path and move forward. I trust you to do that. And it's created a lot of great relationships in my life these last 3 years with most of the people that now work for me, including Chris. And I think that taught me a lot about, again, this idea that I'm not the smartest person in the room. I see things in people that may not have anything to do with the industry we're in, but they're the type of people that you can lean into on levels that make them indispensable.
Shout out to you, and shout out to that person. I think I know who you're talking about. For sure. Well, so you made the leap. You left full time. You started your own company. You found a great partner in the space, and you guys took off like a rocket ship. So you're coming out of the storm. You kind of found your way. You're making good money. You're hiring people. Your business is scaling. Things are good. Looking back at Kris 5 years ago or 10 years ago, what would you say is the biggest evolution that you went through looking at where you are now versus respectively 5-10 years ago, where you were then?
Yeah, I mean, the question, like, I still think I'm trying to find the correct answer to that question. I know ultimately that outside of the trust conversation that we've been having, and trusting others, I think it's this idea that while I can have emotional reactions to things that are happening professionally, how I'm able to, like, unpack that, leverage other people when I need to, but ultimately continue to drive the success of the event or the contract or the client forward, is a big part of maintaining the progression that we've had in this space. Like, what I know for a fact is events tear people up. It's a very stressful place to work. And if you're not able to work through those things and continue to try to find ways to understand that ultimately your goal is the success of an event, you struggle. And so managing my emotions, my justifications, my opinions of things, and continuing to formulate a relationship with the client and the team in ways where I'm empowering them to continue moving forward, even if I feel differently, like that was an art that I'm still trying to perfect. There are moments where I struggle with it, and then there are moments where I can see it in other people and I can help guide the ship and move them through that stuff. But there's a lot, going on, the nuances of managing particular teams and people and events that, like, you would like to guide on a larger level. You would like to have more control. You ultimately don't. You're supporting that client in that event. So you try to find ways to manage those emotions, come up with solutions that support what that client is ultimately looking for, even if it goes against some of your own opinions, and make sure that you're doing right by those individuals, whether it's the client or the team. And so managing emotions. And I guess it translates out to my personal life. It's something that I think impacts my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, and the way they move around the world. Emotions are good. Emotions can be leveraged in a beautiful way. So I don't want to push them in, but I want to be able to use them and adjust and still move in the right direction. There's an art to doing that.
Mm-hmm. We had Rich Bracken on last week or the week before, and talked a lot about emotional intelligence. And to me, it's like a muscle, right? You gotta keep hitting the gym and practicing. Otherwise, you'll fall out of practice and it'll get messy real quick. So yeah, that's something that I keep an eye on myself with all the time too. Like, what baggage am I carrying home? What am I not? Maybe make a detour on the way home so you can vent a little before you walk in the door and just be a mess. So yeah, 100%. Kris, I wanna do a lightning round.
Yeah, let's do it. I know we're coming up on time, so Chris, we do a lightning round where we're just going to ask you some random questions. They don't relate to work or anything. We're going to spitball. So,
All right.
JR, I'll let you kick it off.
First question, this should be easy. Are those watches behind you?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, if you want to see someone that when they take on a hobby or obsess over something, they go crazy, you're looking at him. So yeah, those are the current collection I'm putting most of my time into. If you get a larger view of this room, the sports memorabilia is also something I dabble in quite a bit, but it's the perks of what I do, and it feeds my soul in ways where I definitely need it after a long day at work.
Yeah.
For sure. JR, this question's for you and Chris. So I know you guys don't know this about each other, but we're all car guys here. So to both of you, if the wives had no say, money is not an issue, what's your dream car, make, and model?
You want me to go first on that one, JR?
I do.
So, I don't know if I really had one until recently. And again, the fruits of my labor have been great, especially these last couple of years. So I started to dabble in a few cars. And the one that I think would probably constitute a dream car would be the 911 GT3. And I don't know if I ever got that car, if I would even want to drive it anywhere but a track. So I don't know if it's going to be something I ever actually purchase, but I did get to test drive it a couple months back. I would love to put and invest money into a car like that, but I just, it's too much car for me. So I can dream about it, but I don't know if it's a reality I want to take off.
It's a 2-seater, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a lot of car.
Yeah, I love that car. That's a good one. I'm not a supercar guy. I would own a Porsche, but I'm not like a Lambo type of guy. So I bought my dream car kind of already. I don't need anything fancy, but growing up in high school, the car that I wanted was a late 80s Mustang 5.0, the boxy one. And I would love one of those just to put in the garage, tune, make mint, and just have to drive around in the summer here in Minnesota. That's what I would do.
That's awesome. What are those, mid to late 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm an M3 guy through and through, so no matter how big I'll get, I'll always have a nice modded M3. Yeah. But dream car for me, same as you, Chris, GT3 RS.
Yeah, you
can't go wrong.
You see a lot of M3s out on the track, though. I went to a track locally about a month ago with a friend of mine, and he has an M3, and he took it out there. You see a lot out there, and then of course those RSs when they show up just take over the track.
Yeah, for sure. Last question for you both: Super Bowl predictions. We're mid-season. Who you guys got in the Super Bowl?
Rams.
Yeah, but what about from the other side?
Patriots.
It's a tough one this year. You can't just keep saying Kansas City anymore.
He said Patriots.
Patriots.
Oh, you know what? I like that. I think they deserve a little bit of getting back there, so we don't have to talk about Belichick and Brady anymore. But all that being said, and I hate that I'm still going to ride with this pick because Buffalo just got smashed by Miami. But Josh Allen's got to get himself to the Super Bowl at the very least, even if he loses, which, I would imagine this year we're going to see another one come from that side, which, I like the Rams. I'm gonna go with another underdog, and I know you're from Minnesota, so Sam Darnold was your guy, but Seattle's defense is looking so good right now. If Darnold could just keep it together, I feel like they have to happen.
And if they could get a high seed where you have to go through Seattle, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Well, let's make this prediction. If Seattle gets back to the Super Bowl, you guys have me back on just for a 30-second blip where I get to brag about being right.
Yeah, we'll play the replay.
For sure. I'll have to eat my words on that one too.
Your Eagles, I mean, they're primed. If Saquon can just get back to being Saquon, I don't really care what AJ Brown does. I think they've got a good chance.
The Eagles are so good that we don't want to pick them because it's a safe pick now. That's a good place to be, Chris.
It is.
Yeah, we're the new Chiefs / Patriots. It's like, yeah, they're gonna win. We don't want to talk about it. They win ugly. Let's just leave it at that.
Very, very.
So I get it, but no, Chris. In all seriousness, appreciate your time. We could talk to you all day. It's crazy, an hour went by that fast. But any last things that you want to say to the listeners? Any pieces of advice? Any projects that you're working on that you want to bring light to? Feel free. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate the time. First, shout out to BW Events, Brandon Wormley, the man behind everything and everyone within the event tech and customization space specifically. He's been able to just grow and expand out in ways where he's touching everybody. I mean, these tier 1 events, if BW isn't helping in some capacity, I'd be shocked. And so shout out to him. As it relates to words of wisdom or some advice, like I think, similar to what I was saying about, that contractor, that kid that I hired, I think your capabilities are really only they're limited by your belief system. And sometimes our belief systems are created by tradition or childhood, family traumas even. And so, we're always evolving as a society, as a community. And I think why are we still sticking with standards that, are things that we've learned from 30 or 40 years ago? And I think traditions are there to guide, but inhibiting our ability to be able to do something new and different, I think is something that we need to be more aware of and try out new things. Again, I think I said this once, but I'll say it again. Fear is like this thing that is telling you what you're scared of, you should actually walk into and try out. And I think if you start doing that a little bit more often and leaning into things that are a bit uncomfortable, the success is on the other side of it. And so it's why now, on the self-employed side of things, I'm putting money and investing in things I never thought I'd ever do. And the output of that has been extremely positive. And I wish that for everyone. Everyone has the same opportunity. You meet people every day that you can lean into in ways that I think truly can support one another and provide the happiness and the lifestyles that we all deserve. So, keep evolving, keep looking at how things are changing, keep an open mind to everything, and know that you aren't the smartest person in the room, but there are people around you that are and are willing to support you.
Chris Donaldson, ladies and gentlemen.
CD.
Goodness.
CD. Yeah.
CD.
I gotta send a memo out now. So CD it is.
Chris,
Awesome,
thanks for coming on the show, man. This is awesome. Like Chris said, I could ask questions all day, so we'll have to get together and have a chat because I'd be interested in your experience and how you do it, just on a professional level. So great to meet you.
Yeah, the pleasure was all mine, guys. I appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Chris Donaldson, man, what a great guy.
Yeah,
It was a
great episode. Lots of good sound bites there. Yeah. What's happening next week? I don't think we have a plan. Again, self-induced.
I don't think we have a plan. Yeah, self-induced. We'll figure it out like we always do. We pivot. That's the name of the show. But yeah, until next time.
Clock in, head down, same old day. Just a name on the line in someone else's play. Got the paycheck, got the roof, still feeling chained. Heart keeps whispering you were built for more than this lane. compass, not a stop sign. Now the screens light up and the stages glow. You're writing your own story in the event tech show. You found your people, let them take the wheel. Give them more than a paycheck, give them something real. 'Cause you're not the smartest in the room, and that's alright. You're the spark, they're the fire, burning through the night. Yeah. So walk into the storm, through the sideways rain. If you're gonna suffer, make it worth the pain. Build your own road, light your own sky. Lean into the fear and watch your whole life rise. Yeah, fear, just a compass pointing you to the other side.